market equilibrium result in that last slide related to a perfectly competitive market where each of the sellers was tiny. And you might think, well, maybe this isn't going to hold if we have bigger sellers. But it turns out that it does. So the graph here can help to illustrate that. We've got, in this case, two sellers of, I think it's tomatoes in this case, two firms producing tomatoes, and these are their marginal cost curves, what we'd usually think of as supply curves for a market, but for individual firms we think of it as their marginal cost curves. Now, let's say we've got a market price of $2 per pound for these tomatoes. Efficiency would want us to produce all of these tomatoes, however many tomatoes that are going to be produced. Efficiency would dictate that we produce these tomatoes at the lowest cost. Because otherwise we could rearrange production, have the tomatoes produced at a lower cost, and then as a society, the benefit that we receive would still be the same, but we'd get it at a lower cost, so the original allocation can't have been economically efficient. We wouldn't have been maximizing economic surplus. But it turns out we're safe. We do get efficient production here, and here's how we can establish that. At that price of $2, each of these firms, Harris Sisters and Big Red, make their individual profit maximizing decision. They produce as long as the cost of production is lower than the amount that they can obtain for selling a pound of tomatoes, that is their price. So Harris Sisters keeps on selling up here as long as their marginal cost is lower than $2. They keep on selling and they stop right there. They sell 3 million pounds of tomatoes. Big Red does the same thing. They think to themselves, we're going to sell as long as our marginal cost is less than the price. So they keep on going here and they end up selling 7 million pounds of tomatoes. So in total we've got 10 million pounds of tomatoes. Okay, so that's all well and good. And the question is, could we produce this cheaper? And the answer to that is no. Let's use the B change here. We're going to be thinking about Harris Sisters producing a bit more and Big Red producing a bit less, but the exact same amount more or less, so that we still get 10 million pounds of tomatoes. Okay, so Harris Sisters produces a bit more. They increased their production from 3 to, I don't know, presumably 4 million pounds of tomatoes. But look at the cost of each of those extra million pounds of tomatoes. All of those costs are bigger than $2. Now we took production away from Big Red. Presumably they moved from 7 down to 6 million pounds of tomatoes. But look at the cost of production that they would have incurred for each of those pounds of tomatoes. All of those pounds cost less than $2. So what we've done by making this change to the market is we have increased our costs, increased our collective costs for society. All of those extra tomatoes that we produced cost more than $2 a pound, where we could have produced ones that cost less than $2 a pound. The upshot of this is that the market ensures that everything is produced with the lowest possible cost.